Welcome everybody back to Slices of Seattle, the short form version of the Slice of Seattle podcast. This is a very, very special episode because this Saturday, July 19th, I had the good fortune of being able to join my co-host Connor Simmons and one of the heads of KUGR, Brandon Chapman, in going into the press box behind the scenes of Mariners baseball and getting to talk to some pretty cool people. So it was a great experience. I was able to bring my camera with me, got a lot of good pictures, got a lot of good content. So I wanted to be able to share some of this stuff I got with you guys. First off, I got to talk to one of the Mariners pitchers. I got to talk to an all-star. And I got to ask him what it was like getting to pitch in the all-star game.
I feel great. Feel really proud of myself, especially to put the Mexico flag in there and just make Mexico really proud and just be able to pitch was awesome for me. Last time I went and I didn't pitch, but even if I didn't pitch, was a really cool experience. This time that I was able to pitch and be able to learn from a lot of players over there, a lot of people who have a lot of time in the big leagues, and just learn from there was important thing for me. And if I was pitching or no, that was an extra that they give me, but I was really excited for it.
And then, of course, given the fact that he is one of the best relievers in all baseball right now, coming in such clutch moments for the Mariners, I had to ask him how he handles these nerves in some of these big moments.
Probably I don't think about that. Obviously, like before the game, before I get in, I get nervous. I get that adrenaline in me. But as soon as I touch the mound, I forget about it. And obviously, it's not easy to say like forget about it. But I try to change that nervous for angry.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got the angry on me, it's like I'm going to let the things happen. A lot of times doesn't work. A lot of times we get there and we didn't have the results that we want. But the important thing is you continue to work and continue to do the adjustments that you have to do and just get ready for the next outing. And that is the only thing that you have to do.
And then, of course, considering the fact that he spends a lot of time in the bullpen, he's around a lot of those guys, I had to ask him who in the bullpen is kind of the best personality, just kind of the best guy to be around. And here's what he had to say.
Probably I would say Thornton.
Yeah.
Frank Thornton is really funny and he picked the right moments to say things that is going to make us laugh.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important to have those things in the bullpen because like you never can be like too serious all the time. Like you have to. This is a game and you have to have fun.
I didn't just get to talk to players. I also got the chance to meet TJ and Lyle, the hosts of the Marine Layer podcast, which if you're not following them on Instagram, YouTube, you're not listening to their stuff, what are you doing? Give them a follow. It's the Marine Layer podcast. They're great Mariners content. Go give them a follow. They're incredible. They're great. But I was able to sit down and ask them some questions as well. To start off, I had to ask them, what are they thinking about second half Cal Raleigh? And here's what they had to say.
I feel like he's going to go into the second half, and given that he doesn't wear down behind the plate, I would imagine we're going to see pretty much the same offense we saw from him in the first half. And we actually saw a bit of a break from the rest of July. What we saw last night, we had a go-ahead RBI. That was actually his first non-home run hit of July, which is the craziest thing I think I've ever heard, but also kind of shows you where Cal Raleigh is at offensively.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to believe that his season's going to go any differently than it went in the first half. The guy's hitting for power. The guy's pulling the ball. You saw it in the home run derby, which wasn't that different from what he's done all year. But yeah, what do I think he's going to do in the second half? I think it's going to be more of the same of what you've seen most of the year. The year's been unprecedented for the guy. It's close to the best season we've ever seen for a catcher. It certainly was in the first half. And where's he going to end up in October? I mean, I think you're going to see those ESPN updates of him versus Judge when we get into the dog days and the tail end of this season about where the home run total's at, because he's on pace. He's well on pace to break it. So I think as you get into September and late September here, I think you're going to see that number counter go up and up and up. And how close will he get? Look, I think there's a world he breaks it, but at the very least, he's going to get close.
And then, of course, there was a question that's been bugging me for the longest time when I was thinking about 2020 playoff Randy Arozarena and the fact that the Mariners have a pretty good chance of making a bid for playoffs this year. I was wondering, and I wanted to ask them this question too, how do we think what's going to happen if the Mariners make playoffs? Are we going to get that same kind of playoff Randy Arozarena?
You know, he is a big game player. I think that's how he's always been. He's also been very streaky in his career. And the best thing about the playoffs, it's such a small sample that if you get hot in that moment, it really is going to carry you. So I'd say there's a pretty good chance. He just got to catch it on the upswing again. I'd imagine we'd see before the end of the season, another downswing at some point, but then you would imagine there's going to be an upswing as well.
Look, it's hard to repeat what Randy Arozarena did in 2020. That might be the best stretch of a playoff run we've ever seen, or it's close to it at the very least. So could he get that hot if the Mariners get into October again? Maybe not quite that hot, but yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing we've learned about Randy is he's built for the big games. He's built for the big moment. He always seems to rise above it. And kind of like TJ said about his hot streaks, when he gets hot, he can carry an offense for 2-3 weeks at a time. I mean, Randy Arozarena's hot streaks mirror just about anybody's in baseball. I mean, when he gets hot, it's unbelievably hot. So you combine that with his knack for the big moment and his knack for the postseason when he's been a part of it. Yeah, it's hard to say he's going to be 2020 Randy if they get into the postseason because it's just such a lofty expectation. But are you going to see him rise above the moment and play really well? Yeah, I think there's a very safe bet that when we get to October, if the Mariners are there, you're going to see some hot stretches from Randy Arozarena, and you may see him flat out win them a game in October if they get there because that's just who he is.
I also had the good fortune of running into former Coug and KUGR alumnus Gary Hill Jr., who currently does the radio side of the Mariners broadcast alongside Rick Riz. Didn't get a chance to meet Rick Riz, but Gary Hill is just as good. Great guy, great personality, and a pretty great interview too. So I had to ask him, of course, being on the radio, being on the call for some of these really important moments, what is it like calling these moments with Cal Raleigh specifically?
It's incredible. It's been utterly ridiculous to see what he's done in the first half. He has been, I mean, every day we're talking about a record that he's broken that Mickey Mantle set or Johnny Bench set. He's put himself up with some of the best this game has ever seen. These years don't come around very often, so we're just enjoying every single moment of it. We're all wondering, where is this going to end? How is this going to end? Because this has just been a magnificent season. Every moment of it.
I thought you were going to make him sweat when you were like, what was the first thing you said? Like, it's been incredible. I was like, just stop there. Make him sweat. Like, is that it? No, this guy's on radio.
One-word answers.
He knows how to fill the time, fill the space.
Then, of course, I got to talking with Gary about trade deadline, these kind of rumors and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask him what makes this trade deadline so interesting for everybody.
Well, this is always the trick, and this is why I think deadline talk is the hardest kind of talk, because the one question that we don't know, we never know this, is who is actually available. Like, rumors are fun, and it's fun to speculate about, oh, who could they get, who could they grab, but you never really know who is actually available via trade. So I'm as anxious as everybody to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be an active deadline. We'll see how many teams are going to be sellers too. That's the other question that we're watching. Like, will the Diamondbacks throw up the white flag at some point? I mean, those are the kind of teams we're watching. So I'm really anxious to see how it plays out the next couple of weeks.
Hey, same question? Well, I feel like, you know how many times you see teams with astronomical payrolls, and they're right there at the same level where you are, wins, losses, sometimes a few more, sometimes a few less. And all the amount of money in the world doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the right player, right? You're looking at who could fill a role at this position or this position. And I look at some of these players too, like Suarez. I love good vibes only, but there's so much to consider, and the team's considering things like injury risk and other things too, like in clubhouse fit. So, I mean, you can speculate all day long. That's all meant for a Coldplay concert. We don't need to,
Yeah, and when you're talking 2 months, it's usually never the biggest name that ends up making the biggest impact, which is kind of fun about the deadline too.
Yeah. Who was it? Rich Amaral made an impact back in the day. You never know.
And then, of course, considering that you got both Gary Hill and Brandon Chapman, a couple of old heads down there, I had to ask them, they're longtime Mariners fans, what's their all-time favorite Mariners moment?
Yeah, I've got one. I've got one where I was at the game. I was at Randy's 19th strikeout game against the White Sox, but I was at a game. He took a no-hitter, lost it with an out in the ninth, but Griffey had just a saving catch in that one. It was just a phenomenal experience. I went to Buhner Buzz twice. I was first person at Buhner Buzz 2 times, and that was probably one of them.
It's grown back. That's nice.
And then my other moment I thought was just really neat. It has nothing to do with being at the game and partly with the Mariners, but when Edgar hit that double, I was with my family, right? I was with my family. We were all huddled around a TV, which we thought was big at the time. It's like this big. It's nothing now. And it was just that memory, that reminder that baseball is, something that transcends just the game. So anyway,
There are so many.
so many.
It's hard to choose one. The Paxton Toronto no-hitter is close to my heart because I was on the call for that. I'll never forget being on the call for a no-hitter, which was amazing. The Felix perfect game is a game I'll never forget. But the playoff series in Toronto, being there and watching that play out, it had been so long, as we know, since the Mariners were in the postseason, and to win that series the way they did, I will never forget it. And all the big moments that happened along the way. It was incredible, and it's why I'm, again, hoping for another postseason run like that, because that was the greatest.
Thank you guys so much. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Next up on the docket, I got an interview with the one and only Angie Mentink, color commentary personality for the Seattle Mariners, alongside Aaron Goldsmith. I was able to talk to her and ask her a couple questions. And one of the things I wanted to ask her, considering the fact that she's a color commentary person, how do you handle doing color commentary for these moments with Cal Raleigh when you're up in the booth like that? And here's what she had to say.
I just want to make sure that I'm not talking when Cal is up to bat. And if you notice, I'm pretty chatty. All right, I've heard it. But when Cal's up to bat, I'm a mute. I say nothing because it seems like every single day it's another historic swing. It's another historic home run. And so I don't want to be, in mid-thought or doing something when Aaron gets the opportunity to make that call. So it's just magical. It's incredible. We could even see a 50-20 catcher. I mean, he's got 11 steals right now at the time of this production. So it's not impossible to think that he could pick up 9 more. And I think he's going to get to 50 home runs too. So that would be insane.
When I was talking with Angie Mentink, it was great to hear kind of some of the intricacies of what her job is, both as a color commentary person, but also just someone who's in broadcasting. And I was able to kind of get an understanding of what are some of the things that broadcasters can't do when they're up in the broadcast booth. And one of them is kind of speculate about trades. And I was able to ask her about this. Why is it that broadcasters can't really speculate about trades? Here's what she had to say.
Well, if you are actually a broadcaster for the organization, if you're working on the broadcast, you have to be careful about saying some things because it makes it seem like you're speaking for the organization. Like, oh, we'd want to go get this guy or we'd be interested in this guy. I mean, I think that it's no secret that the corner infield positions are somewhere they could go and most easily find that offense. Obviously, Ben Williamson has been absolutely fantastic defensively over there. But, 1 home run through 73 games is not the offensive output you usually see from a third baseman. And, I mean, of a team that wants to be in the postseason and win their first World Series. And first base, it's been tough. The platoon between Solano and also Luke Raley, it's kind of been a little bit of a mixed bag. So I think those are 2 positions, and obviously everybody I think would love to see Gino come back and be in a Mariners uniform. He's comfortable here. He knows this clubhouse. He knows this field. I think he'd be delighted to be working with Perry Hill. He's obviously a good fit, but first we have to see who's a buyer, who's a seller, and what's going to happen as that trade deadline gets closer.
And finally, to cap it all off, I got one of the best interviews of the day. Got to talk with Aaron Goldsmith, TV play-by-play broadcaster for the Seattle Mariners on Root Sports. Great guy, great interview. And one of the first questions I started off asking him was, what's the thought process for him on calling a lot of these Cal Raleigh home runs, a lot of these Cal Raleigh big moments? How's he go about doing it? And here's what he said.
I think about when you have players like of Cal's level that are franchise players who will theoretically maybe be here for his entire career. Honestly, I think about seasons like this and the moments that he's having, and I kind of filter everything through. If we fast forward, 20 years from now, and Cal Raleigh is going into the Mariners Hall of Fame, what do you want to hear on the video board when he gets put in? That's kind of my filtering process of how you should execute a call, what you should work into a call, how you want to capture a moment. And so I've thought about that a lot. That first time that kind of triggered for me was Felix. And when Felix was put into the Mariners Hall of Fame, and we saw all the great calls from Rick and from Dave from over the years, it kind of was a trigger, a light bulb for me of okay, this is when you're talking about either generational players or players that mean a significant amount to your franchise that will potentially be here for their whole career, how do you want to capture it? And that's kind of how I think about it. Calls like for Cal or for whoever might be there kind of at his level with the Mariners.
One question that had been on my mind for a while was the home run derby. Cal Raleigh beating out Brent Rooker by less than an inch. And Brent Rooker had said that he thought that there should have been a swing off. And so I thought, I have Aaron Goldsmith here. I want to ask him this question. So he was able to give his response about whether he thought there should have or should not have been a swing off. And also gave us some insight about how the format of the Derby has kind of changed over the years. Let's take a look.
I definitely understand why Brent Rooker feels that way. If anybody was in that position, they would feel that way because it is a little suspect, right? Like maybe StatCast can measure to that grain of sand. I don't know. Like, I don't think they're making it up, but it is kind of wild. I think we can agree on that, even if you're on Cal's side of this. I understand why they didn't do a swing off. I mean, you want to tire these guys out even more in the first round. Like, that's a real disadvantage for them going forward. I'll tell you, to kind of bridge off of that, when I was watching the Derby this year, my thought was, like, they need to change the format of this. Like, the cameras can't keep up with the home runs. You know, O'Neal Cruz hits that ball, like, 513, the longest non-Coors Field home run, I believe, in Derby history. And we didn't really get to appreciate it because it's like, well, here comes the next pitch. And if I'm the guy in the truck producing the game, what an impossible event to produce because it's just obviously it's rapid fire. They went away from the old format of just you get X number of swings and to try to speed it up. But the advantage of the old format was you could appreciate all the homers. You could track them all, and the plates could go nuts with it. So I don't know. Maybe there's something in the middle that we could get to. It made for a difficult viewing experience, I would say. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I thought it was a tough one to kind of follow.
And then finally, to close out the interview, I wanted to ask him, who do you want to see in a Mariners jersey the most? If you had no restrictions, all the money in the world, all the resources to make any kind of trade for any player in the MLB, I wanted to figure out who he would want to see in a Mariners jersey the most. And his answers are pretty cool. Let's take a look.
Well, I mean, Ohtani comes to mind immediately, right? I mean, that's like, I feel like such a cop-out. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to give you like a deep cut here and not just like Judge, Ohtani. All right, I'll give you two sneaky guys that I've just really enjoyed watching in their career. This doesn't mean that they're the best. These are just like some of my favorite dudes. I'll give you a pitcher and a position player, okay? I have such respect for Nathan Eovaldi. He has just stepped up so many times in October. He said, there aren't many guys with double Tommy John who are still getting it done. And I know he spent some time on the injured list this year, so it's not like he has had a clean track of health. But I just have such a respect for the fact that he's just kept getting it done year after year with injuries on the biggest stage in the game. I just love watching him pitch. He's one of those guys where, like, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but I have really good memories as a baseball fan watching Nathan Eovaldi, Big Game Nate. And the other guy that, man, I love this dude, and I would have maybe never thought that this guy would be as productive this late in his career is Kyle Schwarber. Like, he's just look at him, man. Like, just look at him. Look at him. Just going up there, short arms, just hitting absolute nukes. And he's done it forever. I mean, obviously not a guy with great defensive versatility, right? Like, he's not a glove first guy by any means. No. And you kind of wonder, how will that player age? What will, like, the hit tool look like? What will the bat slow down? Will that cost him power? And it's just one year after the next, he just walks and hits bombs. So he got a fun name. Like, he looks like a Kyle Schwarber, you know? And so, like, those are two guys that just kind of off the top of my head that aren't like the Ohtanis and Judges that I just personally like watching play.
All in all, it was absolutely phenomenal to get to talk to all those amazing people. Andres Munoz, the folks from the Marine Layer podcast, Angie Mentink, Gary Hill Jr., Aaron Goldsmith, big names in Mariners baseball, and I got the opportunity to sit and talk to them for a day. Absolutely incredible, super lucky. I appreciate all of them taking the time to be able to sit and talk to me and get a lot of good content. But you know, that game too, July 19th, was an absolute nail biter. Went down to the 11th inning, It was absolutely electric. Ironically enough, we interviewed Andres Munoz and asked him about his nerves going into big moments like that. He came in the ninth inning of that game and shut it down. Granted, they did have to go to the 11th and leaned on Matt Brash and Bizzardo, but still a big moment for Andres Munoz, and he comes in and does his job. And you heard him talking about it in the interview. He just finds a way to turn that nervousness into anger and just produce out on the mound, and it's super fun to watch. One of the nicest Mariners on the team right there, Andres Munoz. Great interview, super great personality, absolutely love it. But of course, Mariners lose the last game of that series, 11-3, I believe. So they did not pick up the series sweep. But I will say a series sweep there would have absolutely set the tone for the second half of the season. I mean, you had the opportunity to gain so much ground on the Astros, which you did. Those first 2 wins do help you pick up quite a bit of ground in getting close to them, and they're in first place in the AL West. You pick up some games, but then that last loss of that series kind of tripped you up a little bit. Do I think that they've built some momentum heading into the second half of the season? Absolutely. I think a series sweep would have given them even more momentum, would have maybe kind of possibly could have skyrocketed them to leapfrogging the Astros pretty soon here. But I think they still have an uphill battle. Still got to gain some ground on the Astros. They need the Astros to lose. And if there was a time to do it, it would be right now. The Astros have a lot of injuries. Yordan Alvarez is still hurt. Isaac Paredes just got hurt in that game where I was there for when he was legging out a single. He probably could have had a double out of it, but pulled something in his leg, kind of limped into first base. So they're hurt right now. They got a lot of injuries. This is the time where they're probably going to lose some games. And the Mariners are looking pretty hot right now. So if they can pick up some games, close the gap between them and the Astros in terms of first place in the division, now would be the time to do it. But yeah, there's definitely just a tough loss on Sunday, but they do have some momentum. So the takeaway from this series is pretty good. We're looking pretty hot. We got a lot of momentum. The Astros are possibly on the downswing. So, but that's basically everything for the Mariners. Again, super thankful to Brandon Chapman at KUGR for getting Connor and I media passes to be able to go and talk to all those amazing people. It was an absolutely amazing experience. But let's talk about the Seahawks. The real big news coming out recently is that the Seahawks have released Noah Fant. They have parted ways with him. I'm not exactly heartbroken over this. I will say I did like Noah Fant. I thought he was just a fun guy to have. Do I think he was producing the most for the Seahawks while he was here? Probably not. I think he fell off a little bit coming from Denver to Seattle. I don't think he was producing as much. So I understand the reasoning behind it. And this does make way for Arroyo. Looks like he's probably going to be tight end number 1 for the Seahawks. Which, I mean, I'm fairly happy about that. I mean, I'm not exactly heartbroken over Noah Fant, but I'm also not jumping for joy about it either. I'm a little indifferent about us releasing Noah Fant. So that's basically all the main Seahawks news that came out this week. And the last little thing I want to touch on today is Kraken news. The schedule released for the Kraken, I think for all the NHL teams. So the Kraken, look, opening day is in October for the NHL and for the Kraken as well. The October schedule is looking a little rough. It's a little, got some pretty tough teams in there. I mean, you started off opening day, Anaheim, the Ducks. Not concerned about the Ducks very much. Granted, I said that last year, and for some reason the Ducks had the Kraken's number in a lot of games. And that's part of that's not the main reason why we missed out on playoffs, but it definitely didn't help. I mean, losing those games against a team like the Ducks that you should win, you should beat, definitely tripped you up in terms of trying to make playoffs, 1,000%. So you start off with Anaheim, then you immediately go and you play against Vegas, which, I mean, playoff team, gave the Oilers a run for their money in the playoffs. They're a tough team. They've always been a tough team. They're kind of our division rivals. They're tough. Then you got Montreal, who at the start of last season, I didn't really think they were going to be that good of a team, but then they break into the playoffs, gave the Capitals a bit of a run for their money in the playoffs. Then you go over to Ottawa, who kind of the same thing as the Montreal Canadiens for me. They're still a playoff team, but they're not as frightening as some of the other playoff teams are. They're not real contenders. They're good enough to break through into the playoffs, and that will probably be a tough matchup. Ottawa's still pretty good. You got Brady Tkachuk on that team. Then you go and you play against Toronto. Toronto was looking pretty solid. They got knocked out by the Panthers this year in the playoffs. Again, they're still a playoff team. They've lost Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is signed with the Vegas Golden Knights. But they're still pretty decent. They've lost one of their superstars in Mitch Marner. But they still got Austin Matthews. They're still a decent team overall. I think there's definitely a chance the Kraken could pull out a win there. Then you play against Philly. Not worried about Philadelphia. I'm trying to think of the last time they were actually really good, and you can't. They're not that good of a hockey team anymore. Then you go play against Washington, the Capitals. I believe, from what I've been hearing, it seems like Ovechkin's not going to retire next year, or at least he said that he doesn't plan to retire next year. So that's just one of the fascinating things. He's already broken Wayne Gretzky's goal record, and he's going to play another year. So he's just going to try and keep widening the distance, widening the gap. And it's not like this year where he broke the record, he barely was scoring any goals. He's still scoring a fair amount of goals. He's not in his prime, I'll tell you that. But he's still a competent goal scorer. So if he plays another season, I don't doubt he'll still be as good as he was last year. He's probably going to really start to widen that gap between him and Wayne Gretzky. So I mean, I'm pretty excited to see him playing next year. But the Capitals are going to be that's going to be a tough game for the Kraken, where it's just a tough opponent to play against. Then you're going against Winnipeg, who I believe they won the President's Trophy last year. I think they were the number 1 team in hockey heading into the playoffs. And then, of course, they got knocked out by the... I'm trying to remember who they got knocked out by. And I can't remember. But that's also going to be a pretty tough game to play. Then you're going against Edmonton, who just are coming off a Stanley Cup appearance. They got beat again by the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. Do I think that's going to be a pretty tough game? It's still the Edmonton Oilers at the end of the day. They got a lot of talented guys on that team. You got Connor McDavid. You got Leon Draisaitl. You got Nugent Hopkins. You got just Darnell Nurse. You got all these really talented hockey players on that team. Do I think they're as good? Maybe they're going to be from last year and the year before that? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that what you're going to see from the Edmonton Oilers is a bit of a fall off after making back-to-back Stanley Cup appearances and losing both times. I don't really know how you recover from that. I think that's pretty rough. And then to close out October, they're playing against Montreal again. And again, Montreal is just a kind of a fringe playoff team. They break through every single, maybe this year, like they did last year. Still a decent hockey team, and probably will give the Kraken a bit of a run for their money in that game. But I say this, but the season hasn't started yet. We're not quite sure. We're still a ways out from the first games of the season. A lot of things could change. There's a lot of trades that could be made, or people could sign somewhere else. There's just a lot that can change between these teams that can turn them from real contenders to just bottom of the league, just bottom feeders, right? Then you go to November, and the schedule does cool down a little bit in November. You start off by playing against the Rangers, who, after winning the President's Trophy 2 seasons ago, last year, were kind of awful. They sold off. They got rid of Trouba. They got rid of Capo Caco, who came to the Kraken. They were just a seller last year, kind of got rid of a lot of their guys, and really were not the same team that they were the year before that. So I'm not too scared about the Rangers. I don't think that could be a great win we pick up there. Going to play against Chicago, same thing. I'm not too worried about Chicago. Not that good of a team. Really, all they got is Connor Bedard at the end of the day. Then you're playing against the Sharks. Same thing. All they really got is Macklin Celebrini, and that's it. Granted, I say that, but last year the Sharks had the Kraken's number for some reason, and the Kraken just could not find ways to pick up wins against them, which is incredibly frustrating because there were a number of games we probably should have beaten them in, and they just found ways to pull out wins. Then you go and you play against St. Louis. They're a very physical team, and I think they'll probably still be that way this year as well. So that's going to be one that's going to really test you a little bit. You're playing against Dallas. Again, playoff team, really tough team. They gave the Oilers a bit of a hard time in the playoffs too. I mean, the Oilers still came out of that series and were able to win it, but the Dallas Stars have for the past couple of years have been a really decent hockey team and a good playoff team too. So that's going to be one that the Kraken kind of need to pick up a win in. Columbus, not too worried about them. Jets, Winnipeg again. You're playing against the Winnipeg Jets again. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a tough matchup. Still a pretty decent hockey team. You're playing against Brandon Tanev. Or actually, pardon me, Brandon Tanev went to the Mammoth. So no, he's not on the Jets anymore. I forgot about that. Then you're playing against the Sharks again. Good opportunity to pick up a win against them. Detroit. I think it's been a long time since I've heard anything really good from Detroit. I believe they still have Patrick Kane. Not too worried about them. I think that's a team you could pick up a win against. Chicago, again, you could probably pick up a win against them. Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby is still playing. I don't think he hasn't retired yet, so he's still on the. That's one of the crazy things. I love Sidney Crosby. He's still playing on the Penguins, but they haven't been good for a long time. So you can definitely pick up a win against Pittsburgh there. Islanders, same thing. Islanders, when I was a big Matthew Barzal fan, he won Rookie of the Year when he came into the league, and they were making playoffs, and they were going pretty decently far into the playoffs. For the longest time, I thought the Islanders were going to be a Stanley Cup contender. And then I believe Matthew Barzal got hurt. Some of their other guys got hurt pretty bad, and they just fell off. And I think it's been a few years now since they've been in the playoffs. So I'm not too worried about the Islanders. I think that's a good game you could pick up a win against. Then you go to Dallas again. It's a kind of a need to win game. Dallas is a tough team. If you can pull out a win there, that could be the difference between games like that against Dallas. If you're able to pick up wins there, that's the difference between you making playoffs and just missing out. And then of course they close out November playing against Edmonton. Again, good team, really good team. Probably not as good as they were last year or the year before that, but still good. And I could see them pulling out a win over the Kraken. But the Kraken, if they just clutch up there in the end of November, they could pick up a win. So I'm only going to go through those 2 months, October, November. Maybe next episode we'll go into December, January, February, kind of look at some of the other months looking forward. But that's just a preview of what those first 2 months of Kraken hockey are going to look like. And let me tell you, October's pretty tough. You got some pretty tough teams in there. November, you sprinkle in a couple more weaker teams so you can pick up wins against. So I wouldn't be surprised if to the start of the season you're going to have a lot of people saying the Kraken aren't going to be playoff contenders because they're probably going to get their butts kicked a little bit in October. But come November, I think when they get their footing a little bit, you got some new guys. You got Marchment, you got Lindgren, who might need to build some chemistry and get acquainted with this team. And then plus you're playing a little bit of easier teams. I say there will probably be a turnaround in November where they kind of start to put everything together. So that's my opinion on those first 2 months of Kraken hockey. I'm really pumped. I'm looking forward to opening day in October. I'm always looking forward to opening day in October. So is my dad. My dad and I will sit and watch every Kraken game. Big deal in our household. We love it. But yeah, that's going to do it for Slices of Seattle. Thank you guys so much. Please follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Really appreciate it. Remember, it is a great day to have a great day. Go Cougs.